those compounds are released into the soil and provide some natural pest control for soil-borne pests. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a wonderful day. It is Saturday, March 18th here in South Georgia, and we have quickly become unsprung. It's pretty chilly out here today and going to be chilly the next couple days. So later in the video we need to do some frost protection measures on some of this warm season stuff that we kind of jumped the gun on with some early planting. But before we do that, we need to take care of this mustard cover crop here behind me. I'm going to kind of revisit some of the benefits of using mustard as a cover crop, get this incorporated, and then I think we've got another cover crop that's trying to go to seed on us, so we may need to take care of that one as well. So on this little approximately 20 by 40 plot on the back half of our property, we had some okra growing in late summer into the fall. Had 3 rows of it. You can still see the stalks there. We left those in place. And then once that okra was done, we came in here and scattered some mustard seeds. Planted a variety called Trifecta blend, which has gold, white, and yellow mustard in it, I believe. Now the plants aren't quite as robust as I'd like them to be. I'd like to have a little more foliage from a mustard cover crop, but I think that's probably my fault. So instead of planting this mustard cover crop in the fall like I should have, I didn't get it planted till maybe early to mid-winter when the days had already gotten pretty short, and this plot gets a good bit of shade in the winter from those pine trees there. So that's probably why our mustard plants didn't get as big as they should have. I've grown this same blend in the front of the property that gets a lot more sun, and it's done very well for us in the past. Just my timing was a little off this year. Didn't get it planted as soon as I needed to. So even though this mustard isn't quite as robust as I'd like it to be, I think we'll still get some decent benefits from the process here. And as you can see, we're getting some flowering on those plants. That tells us it's time to incorporate this stuff, because it will become a weed on us if we let it seed out. So let's quickly revisit all the benefits of using mustard as a cover crop in your backyard garden. This whole process is something that's called biofumigation. So plants in the brassica family, which includes things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and mustard, have these chemical compounds inside the leaves. These compounds are called glucosinolates, and when those leaves are chopped up and incorporated into the soil, those compounds are released into the soil and provide some natural pest control for soil-borne pests. Now the big thing it helps with for us down here in the south is root knot nematodes. Those aren't as big of an issue for gardeners in the middle or northern part of the country, but it's a big problem for us down here. It also helps with harmful soil fungi, all kind of bad things that could be in your soil that could harm your vegetable plants. Now different vegetables within the brassica family will have varying concentrations of the glucosinolates. The more glucosinolates, the more effective biofumigation will be. Mustard has a lot. That's why we use mustard as a cover crop for biofumigation. The spicier the mustard, the more effective it's going to be. This blend of mustard we have here is not really a mustard you would want to eat. A little too spicy to be eating. You can also use like Florida broadleaf mustard that you would want to eat. Any kind of mustard will work, but the spicier, the more effective for biofumigation purposes. Now this whole biofumigation process only works if you get these chemical compounds incorporated into the soil. You can't just chop and drop this stuff and leave it on top of the soil. You got to get those compounds into the soil. That way they can take care of those harmful soil pathogens. And so we're going to be using a tiller today to incorporate this mustard into the soil in this plot. If you're on a small scale, maybe in a raised bed, obviously you can't get a tiller up into a raised bed, so what you could do is just chop it down with a weed eater or whatever you have, and then use a pitchfork or something like that to kind of fold it over into the soil. Same concept, just a different scale. Now before we can till and incorporate this mustard, we need to get these okra stalks out of here. I just leave them in place because they're almost impossible to pull up when they're still green, so we kind of just let them dry and rot out a little bit, and they're a lot easier to remove now than they would have been, say, a couple months ago. I have come in here before and just cut them off at soil level with some loppers, but I think these we can just pull up like that. We'll just yank all these up, put them in the burn pile. All right, so it didn't take just a few minutes there. Pull up all those okra stalks, put them in our burn pile over there. Although okra wood usually doesn't burn worth a flip, but now we can get in here with a tiller and incorporate this mustard. Now usually if the mustard is a lot thicker and a lot taller, I would mow it down first, that way I could get through here easier with the tiller. But given that this isn't super thick, isn't super tall, I don't think we need to mow it first. I think we can just till it. But if you do need to mow it first, make sure your tiller's gassed up and make sure it's gonna crank before you mow it. You gotta incorporate this stuff into the soil when it's green like this, otherwise the biofumigation doesn't work. You can't just mow it one day, come out here the next day and till it in. If you're gonna mow it, you gotta mow it, then till it right afterwards. So I'm gonna go grab the walk behind tiller and probably go over this a couple times to get it nice and incorporated there. And for all you hardcore no-till folks out there, don't turn the channel, just kind of cover your eyes or turn your head during this part. I know when I break out the tiller, it makes some of y'all just start foaming at the mouth and get real mad, and you want to put a lot of passive aggressive comments below, but just turn your head for a second, be done shortly, and then we can get back to talking about something else. All right, so that's what it looks like after one pass with the tiller. Not completely incorporated, as you can see there, but probably one more pass will do it. I'll probably come out here later this afternoon or tomorrow, run over it one more time, and we should be good. I need to mention this whole process does work better if your soil is kind of moist. We got a lot of rain last night, but fortunately this spot's pretty sandy and drains well. That's why we were still able to get in there today without bogging down or making a mess. Now, in addition to suppressing soil-borne pathogens, this biofumigation process with the mustard can also inhibit weed growth or weed germination. And because of that, you don't want to plant immediately after doing this. After you incorporate it, you want to give it a few weeks before you try to plant anything. Otherwise, your seeds might not come up that well. Now, if you have a tarp and you want to make this process even more effective, you can put a tarp on it after incorporating it and kind of stifle all those gases in there, and it works really, really well. I don't have a tarp that fits this plot, so I'm not going to use a tarp here, but if you have one, I'd recommend using it after incorporating the mustard. Now, moving from one cover crop to the next with this one right here behind me in one of our oldest no-till plots, and hopefully we didn't lose all the no-till viewers earlier. I want to show you something that means I got to do something with this plot pretty soon. So this is that overwintering mix that we planted in quite a few of our plots out here in the Dream Garden this past fall. Now, this got beat down a little bit by the rain last night, but it looks pretty good. It's pretty full. No weeds are thriving in there. This is where we're going to be planting some field corn probably in another month or two. But before that, I was going to let the chicken tractor over there on this plot so the chickens could graze it and knock it down a little bit. Now, I was hoping to put the chicken tractor on here within the next week as they finish up over there and have it still be nice and thick and lush like this. That way they could eat it and I wouldn't have to supplement them with much food. But starting to see some flowering out here. Some of these things going to seed. That looks like a mustard or a rapeseed plant there, and then some of this rye or barley starting to go to seed there. So it looks like I'm going to have to mow this a little bit to prevent some of the reseeding that's trying to happen right now. It won't hurt anything, and it might actually help some of this stuff in here to grow a little better. You can see some of that clover down in there. So mowing down some of this rye and barley will actually allow the clover to thrive a little bit more, and the chickens really like eating that stuff. So it might not be a bad thing that we do have to mow it a little bit. And then now over here in the raised bed plot, we need to do a little bit of frost protection in here because, like I said earlier, we have become unsprung. Now, I showed you on that last video that we didn't get a whole lot of damage while I was going to San Diego, and we got a light frost. But I think we're expecting 31 one of the mornings in the next few days, and that's got me worried a little bit. So I do want to try to cover some of this stuff. So we used all this frost protection stuff a good bit this past year, especially with the Arctic blast out here in these raised beds. And this is just good stuff to have. You never know when you're going to need it, and it'll last you a while if you take care of it. I'll put some links in the description below to all this stuff we'll be using here today. And because we've got several different sizes of raised beds out here, I create a little system so I can keep up with this stuff and reuse it. So I just take off a piece and I put it in a Ziploc bag and labeled it. So we've got some Agribon AG19, we've got some Agribon AG30, and then I have each piece labeled whether it's for a rectangular raised bed or one of our round raised beds. Just makes it easy to grab this stuff and put it on the bed where we need to use it. So we've already got our hoops in place here. Just need to put our fabric on there, put some clips to hold it in place, and we should be good to go. And there we go. We got our squash protected with the fabric, got the clips in place there. Now I may need to come around the edges there, put a few bricks just to hold it down, but that should keep everything nice and warm over the next few days. Now for these cucumbers here that did get a little frost damage while I was gone last week, we can't put hoops or covering on this with this trellis in place, so I need to get this up out of here, which is easy to do. So we'll pull that out, put that in the barn until the frost passes and we need it again. And now we can get this bed covered. So we'll use some of these smaller hoops for this long skinny raised bed. We don't need them to be super tall in this case because those cucumber plants are just popping up there. I think 4 of these should be good for this bed. And then we'll just get our fabric on here, which is already cut to length because we've used this on a bed this size in the past. And there we go. Those cucumbers should be nice and snug inside there over the next few days. Now I'll be honest, I resisted using any kind of frost protection system for many years just because I thought it was aggravating, hard to deal with. But now that we have a system in place with all the pieces pre-cut, separated into bags, we've got all our hoops, it's really easy. It doesn't take long at all to put one of these on, go grab what we need, and we're good to go. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Be sure to check out our affiliate links in the description below. Also go check out our website, lazydogfarm.com. And if you want to take a deeper dive into using mustard as a cover crop for biofumigation, check out this video right here that we did last year where we had a nice lush mustard cover crop. We mowed it down, incorporated it into the soil, and talk about all the great benefits it can provide. And we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.